Okay, so we're recording now, and we're going to start today by trying to take it down a notch. We've looked at some celebrities that were meant to help you easily find information about people. And then we looked at some of your own sources for the personalized learning project, and some of those sources might have been easy, some might have been difficult. Today we're going to take it down to a more personal level, just to hopefully add another way of thinking about this, and maybe that will help some make the connection for source evaluation. So in your notebook or on your computer or wherever you write things down during these sessions, write down the name of one person that you trust. And it could be a relative, a friend, it could be someone famous, but anybody you can think of that you really trust. And after you write their name down, write down why you trust that person.
Question.
Yes, Taekwon.
What if you don't trust nobody?
You trust nobody?
Kinda.
That's possible, I suppose. Do you trust a doctor if they tell you that about a diagnosis?
Yeah.
So you could, even if you don't trust anyone 100%, write down somebody that you might trust 70, 80, 90% and explain why.
Do we have to write it down, or can we have it on top of our heads?
Well, you can, I'd prefer if you wrote it down, because we are going to go into breakout rooms and I'm going to ask you one more question.
All right.
So one person's name and why you trust them. What you're essentially doing is making an argument and supporting it with evidence. When you give that person's name, you're saying this person is trustworthy, and that's an argument that you're making. When you explain why, you're providing evidence as to why you find that person to be trustworthy. Okay, one more question before the breakout room, and it's just the flip of that. What is one person you definitely do not trust, and why? So you should have one person you do trust and one person you definitely do not trust. And both of them you should give some explanation, so we have evidence. Okay, one last time, because we did get a couple more people who have just joined us. We're writing down the name of one person you trust and explanation as to why you trust that person, and then the name of one person you do not trust and an explanation as to why you do not trust that person. And I'm going to create breakout rooms for us. Okay, so here are the breakout rooms. And oh, you don't see that yet. So I'll publish it in just a moment, and then you can join your breakout room. I'll pop into them again, pretend I'm not there, and just share your ideas with each other. And so far we've been successful not having a leader, so let's continue trying to do that. And just, if it's an awkward silence, just recognize that that is a Zoom thing. It happens in Zoom. It's not about you, it's not about your group mates, it's about the platform. If we were sitting in desks in a classroom, it would be different. So just initiate things if nobody else is doing it, and just say, so what's one person that you trust? And call on somebody's name and ask them if they'd be willing to share. So let's get these going. You can go ahead and join your breakout rooms.
Hi, type 1. Sorry, I can't hear you. I think you're mute.
Oh, I was on mute. My fault. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine.
Hi.
So who do you trust?
I will say Nelly. She's my mom. So I think that she's the only person that I can trust in the world. Because she when I'm wrong, she make me see it, and she advised me all the time. So.
That's great.
What about you?
Huh?
What about you?
Everyone at the party. Oh yeah.
Wow, your own family. Okay. Who's next?
Okay, so for me, I trust my friend. Her name is Thakwa, and she's in India right now. We have been friends for like 13 years, and I really trust her. And within these 13 years, I came to know a lot about her and her patience. What I like most about her is she's a very patient. Like she don't get angry. I've never seen her getting angry in these years. Maybe once, but not more than once. And she's trustworthy and reliable. And so far, when teacher said, like professor said, that who I do not trust, I as of now I don't trust my aunt. I don't know why, but there's lots of reasons I don't trust her now. I used to trust her before, but not now. That's it.
My co-father, who hasn't been there for almost like a damn year. It's been 20 years since this bitch ass didn't come see me or give me a response, so I fucking hate him. So that's why I don't trust him or socialize with him. I don't even think he exists in my life. I just think he go right in face in hell. Ooh, thanks. Was that a bit too much?
Yeah, but it's okay.
Oh, damn. Okay, well, my bad. So it really matters. What did I say? He was a dick. He's a dick. Oh, who finished their city work?
I guess we all have people that we don't trust, but yeah.
And be them people who's fake, the people who don't allow you, the people who...
Because, even though, we're humans, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
We all learn from it. So if we don't make a mistake, how we're gonna live life? That's how I see it.
Yeah. Okay. So, Professor, we're done actually talking.
Okay. Yeah, you're my last group that I'm visiting, so I'm going to wrap things up soon.
Okay. Jennifer, you wanna?
Okay, welcome back. We've got waiting on 2 groups to return. We got about 30 seconds. Okay, we are back. So I was able to pop in, and a lot of you chose to talk about somebody that you know very personally. I'm not requiring that you say this to everybody, but I will offer it. Would anybody like to share what you talked about? Maybe not necessarily share what somebody else in your group talked about as far as not trusting. So I don't know. I think maybe it's best if we just share our own thoughts when it comes to the whole class discussion, in part because we're recording things and maybe you don't want somebody else saying what you said in your breakout room. So I saw Zashoni's hand up. Was that for you, Zashoni? You got some? Yeah, what's up?
All right, so what I said was I only trust myself because I don't rely on anyone else's opinion because it always leads me to a good and a bad situation. And then the one thing I don't trust, my group already know this, so I probably went too hard. I said, I don't trust my father. My biological father, who hasn't been here for me for 20 dang years, and he haven't seen me or text me or anything. So I said, you know what? He could all rot in hell, all I care for, because he haven't done anything to like protect me or provided me or anything like that for my life, because he want to be a selfish, running around the streets and doing other stuff without helping me with in my life, so he could just run around like some pig. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, I get why you would feel that way, Zashoni, and I'm sorry that that's the case, that you feel that way about your father. But it makes a lot of sense that, you know, when you think about the role of a father and the things that you expect, at the very least, you want your father to reach out to you from what you're saying. And not being able to fulfill the basics of that role, I can understand why you would not trust that person. Did anybody else feel, if I can go back to your first comment, did anybody else feel that they trust no one? Taekwon alluded to that. Was that you, Taekwon?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you trust no one?
I don't trust nobody, but it's only person I trust. Like, people lie about things too much. They don't stick to their word. Promises are meant to be broken, so there ain't no promises be kept with me. So I'd rather be better off by myself.
Okay.
Well, if I don't trust somebody, I'd rather be close with somebody, but that trust level is pretty a high risk for me.
I understand that. Anybody else feel that? Oh, sorry, go ahead. I thought
No,
you were
I'm done.
All right. Thank you, Taekwon. Did somebody else want to share that as well? Kamira?
Yeah.
You feel that way?
Yeah.
You got your video on. I love it.
Yeah. I felt like showing my face today.
Great. Excellent. I'm happy.
I did my bun, so decided to show
That's
it off.
good. I love it. It looks great. So you feel that you can't trust anybody, huh?
Oh yeah.
Why is that?
Cause people they're not it. Like everyone's not it, but like I don't know. Me and people, we don't click. Like they always find a way to let me down in some way, somehow.
I see. So it sounds like among the three of you have a similar thread, that it's hard to trust people because they let you down. about things. You have certain expectations, and then when they don't come through for you, it's hard to want to trust anybody. One of the challenges with, well, so there's personal issues, and those are a little different from what we're dealing with here. Again, I just wanted to try and unveil a personal aspect of this so you could hopefully see a little bit more about why this matters. But when it comes, there's some issues where you are forced to choose somebody that you trust, where you trust more than somebody else. So maybe you only trust them halfway, but you trust somebody else a quarter of the way, and so you go with the one you trust halfway. For example, if you're not feeling well and you go to a doctor and the doctor gives you a diagnosis, you have to decide whether you trust that diagnosis or not. The doctor says you need these pills, and now you're going to take this miracle thing. You don't know what it is. You don't understand what it does to your body, most likely, but you're being asked to trust that doctor. Some people will say, you know what, I don't trust that doctor. He doesn't listen to me, or she doesn't listen, whatever. So you go see another person, you get a second opinion, and that person tells you something different. And now you have to decide, well, which one do I trust and why? And maybe you trust neither of them, and you go get a third opinion, and the third person agrees with the second person. So you decide, you know what, if I have two doctors that agree on the same thing, I'm going to go, I only trust them somewhat, but I don't know what else to do. And so you choose the two doctors who were in agreement. The same can be true for any sort of research that you might be doing, where someone makes an argument and someone makes another argument, and you have to decide whom you trust, whom you're going to believe, whom you're going to support, and why. And so that's part of the reason this source evaluation makes such a big difference. For example, if we go back to the doctors, if you found out one of those doctors was being paid by the prescription company to give you that medication, which is a real thing, do you trust that doctor anymore? It becomes a little more difficult. And that is what's called a vested interest. We're going to come back to that because that was one of the most difficult parts of the source evaluation. But that's what this is all about, deciding whom you trust. Did anyone have an example of someone that they did trust?
I did.
Okay, Rachel?
I said I trust my mom, my partner, and my mother-in-law.
Okay, great. And why do you trust those people?
Because they make me feel safe, and whatever I talk about with them, I'd never have an issue with it, like being said somewhere else or having me to feel bad about it. Like, I just know I can tell them anything, and they'll take it as it is because, and that's okay.
So you have a lifetime of experiences with those people, or a certain amount of experiences.
I mean, my mom, obviously, she is my mom. I would hope that everybody trusted their parents, but not everybody does.
Right.
Because I know the relationship of parents can be rocky. I know I've never met my father. Well, I did twice my whole life, and I am 20 years old. But my mom has raised me, on her own, single parent, for a very long time. So I trust her pretty much with anything. When she tells me her opinion, I get it. But if I have something to say to her, or, I trust her to tell her whatever I want.
Yes, that's another thing. You can trust that you can be open with her, and she will, she won't take it so negatively that it has a long time negative impact on your relationship. So that all makes sense. You build those experiences, and it helps you to build trust. That's the word that the way we often say it. You build trust. It's not something that just appears magically. So for those who feel they trust nobody, you could maybe rethink the question and think, who would you be willing to start building trust with? And it could be someone you know or someone you don't know. Anybody else want to share about who they trust or who they do not trust?
I don't trust the government.
Taekwon, you don't trust the government. Why is that?
Well, same thing with lies and everything. So I don't believe what they say is true, even the media.
Okay.
And yeah, that's mainly it.
Okay, so you got two different things. You got media and you got the government, and they are connected, of course. and you've experienced that there are lies in the media,
Yeah.
and there are lies in the government. And if
Definitely.
someone lies, then you have a hard time trusting them.
Yeah.
I get that. Anybody else want to share?
Kamara?
Kamira? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of building a trust.
Whose trust?
We just became kind of sort of best friends, but we were always friends.
A friend of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why do you trust that friend?
Who just farted?
Cause I mean, like, she's not like all my other friends. Like, she doesn't judge.
Why are you eating the crackers? I don't care, bro.
She doesn't judge, and
Put it down.
I could take it up from there. So you built trust with that friend over time, like I was just saying.
Is it mute?
Hey, crackers are in short supply. Things have changed these days. So I'm gonna fill in there. Just that. That makes a lot of sense. That we have friends. Hopefully, you have a friend that you can think of that you were able to build trust over times. And sometimes something really impactful happened, like one thing, and they came through for you, and you realize, wow, I didn't realize you were that kind of friend. Or you had a conversation and you realized, I didn't realize you were that kind of friend. I'm being open with you. You're being open with me. I don't ever remember a time when I said something to you and then someone else told me that they heard it through the grapevine and I can trust you with my secrets or whatever. So that's really what source evaluation is about. In our lives, we are surrounded by people. Some of them we know, some of them we don't know, and we see them in the news or on TV or whatever. And people say things, and we have to determine whom we can trust, who we even want to listen to. There are some people that are so far off of my list of trustworthy people that every time they say something, I'm just like, nope, that's not true. I listen to it, but I don't believe it. I just don't, you've lied to me too many times, far too many times, or your vested interests are so powerful that I can't really trust you. So that's what source evaluation is all about. And I want to share another way to see whether someone is trustworthy. And now I'm going to switch it back to the academic world and the political world and so forth. And that is something called fact checking. Oh, it looks like you got to give me just one moment here. If you recall, I had computer problems and I had to reset the whole thing, including will not be able to until it's quit. Okay, let's see if that worked. There we go. Okay. Okay, for right, I'm going to say open. Sorry about that. There we go. That should do it. Okay, so fact checking is another way of finding out whom you can trust. And so, for example, you can see there's a presidential debate going or presidential race going on here. And you got Biden, you've got Trump, and they say things, and oftentimes what they say are completely opposite. Or you hear a doctor say something and you hear Trump say the opposite of what that doctor said. A news reporter says something, somebody else says something opposite. Whom do you trust? So these types of websites started opening up, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, called fact check websites. And they aim to provide just the facts and to look at the facts, interpret them, and explain whether they think that fact is based on reality or not. And they give you the evidence as to why they believe that. So these can be really nice because you can hear someone's claim and then go see what factcheck.org says about that. Now, you do run into a little bit of a problem because factcheck.org is also a source. So you'd have to trust that source. And that becomes a little tricky sometimes when you go deeper and deeper into trying to find out if a source is trustworthy, but you have to constantly use other sources to do that. And now you're just opening up all of the different sources that you would need to evaluate. One thing that makes fact-checking sites at least somewhat reliable is that they have a reputation to uphold. And if they are found to be biased politically, that word can get out, and all of a sudden they can no longer be considered a good fact-checking source. So they have a vested interest in being honest, because if people find they're being dishonest, it can upend their entire business. So that's not enough to trust them, but you can use multiple fact-checking sites. So here's another one called Snopes. And this is just another fact-checking site. And it would allow you to, if you hear something, you can go and check to see if that's true. So let me first put this into the chat so you can access it yourself. That's fact check. And that's Snopes. So if you're ever reading the news and you hear something, or somebody tells you something about coronavirus or about Donald Trump or about whatever, you can go to these sites and ask the question and find out if it's true. You can also, during certain hot news topics, you can fact check all of Trump's weekend claims. You can fact check Biden's, that's the Supreme Court nomination speech. Trump has not been clear in his support of masks. You can see I went to this one. So I'm going to click on this one, Trump's repeated false attacks on mail-in ballots. And this is really important for our time period, because we have an election in 1 month, a little bit more than 1 month. And in the past week, Trump has said that he has refused to say that he will accept a loss. It's not saying that he won't accept a loss, but he has said that if he loses, it might be because of election fraud. And there is no evidence for that. So when Trump says something like that, that there is election fraud, that there are mail-in ballots, that he literally said Democrats are rigging the election against him using mail-in ballots, but he has absolutely no evidence to say that. And I know I bring up Trump a lot, but it's important to note that he is probably one of the most dangerous people in the world right now. He is threatening to upend American civilization as I see it. And the way he's doing that is delegitimizing the election. That's part of it. So that if we were all to go vote and he were to lose the election, he suggested that he would take it to court and say that's not true. There's mail-in ballot problems, and I did not lose, I won. So we could find ourselves in that situation and not know who the president is by the end of November, December. There's even possibility that we go into 2021 and we still don't know who the president is. It's possible the Supreme Court, those 9 judges we talked about, end up choosing the president. It's possible the Senate or the House of Representatives end up choosing the president. There's all kinds of scenarios that are due to partly Trump's attacks on mail-in ballots, and also the fact that people are trying to stay home because of COVID. So what you can do is go to this article from FactCheck and read about why they think that his claims are not based on evidence, why they are fake, false claims about unsolicited ballots. So each one of these claims that they make is, you see, it's filled with, these are all pieces of evidence that they're collecting to demonstrate to you that you cannot trust this statement that mail-in ballots are creating a false election. So that's the purpose of, that's part of the purpose of fact-checking sites. You go over to Snopes, they've got something called the Hot 50. You can click on that. And it's kind of interesting because you see both issues and rumors, as they say, that are trending. And some of them might be true, some of them might not be true. So if you hear something coming from someone and you don't really trust that person, or even if you do trust that person, you think they were maybe misinformed, you could go to Snopes.com and see if it's up here. Did Republicans actually say these things about rape, for example? Saving plastic bottle caps for medical treatment. So you can see there's all there's all of these hot issues that these fact-checking sites investigate. So some of them are coming from fake news sites, foreign powers that are trying to delegitimize our election. Some of them are coming from Trump. You can see this is connected to that other. So mail-in ballots were discovered in a California landfill. Is that true? That people's ballots were thrown in the garbage? And he says, photographs show over 1,000 mail-in ballots discovered in a California landfill. That would suggest that people mailed in their ballots and then the post office threw them in the garbage and they were not counted. So you might have heard that. You can go to Snopes and you can check it out. And what they think is this is miscaptioned. In other words, this image is misleading. That's not what is happening there. So that image spreads all over the internet. Look at this picture of all these ballots that were thrown in the garbage. And if you don't look that up, you know, especially if you found it on Facebook or Instagram or something, those are places where a lot of fake news appears. And we will talk about that very soon, actually. So you can go to a site like this and they will tell you, they go and investigate. They do a lot of the work that we've been doing, source evaluation. They look at that photograph and they say, can we trust that photograph? Who took the photograph? Where did they take it? What is it supposed to be depicting? And what they came to find out was it was not depicting a landfill in California filled with mail-in ballots. So they consider it to be a false story. Okay, and so one last thing about these fact-checking sites that are very useful is that, well, we have a debate tonight, and I encourage you to watch it between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It takes place tonight at 9 o'clock, and you can see down here that you can watch it right on, Times will live stream the debate. So you can watch it right on the New York Times with your free account. And they've got it, you just click it. It'll be entertaining, I can promise you that. I mean, everything that Donald Trump does is entertaining. That's part of his gig. It might be angering, but it's very entertaining. And Biden is gonna try, so there will be like this battle, you know, and they'll be talking one-on-one, just the two of them. So that's happening at 9 o'clock tonight. While that happens, it says, our reporters will provide commentary and analysis, which is to say that they are going to instantly respond to some of the things that Trump or Biden say. So they will provide some of that background. They'll say, actually, what he just said was an exaggeration, or what he just said was completely true. You can find it here and there and there. And you'll find that actually most of the things that they say are a little bit untrue, sometimes a lot untrue. Trump is known for just saying things that are flat out false. He'll probably bring up the mail-in ballots during the debate. But so while you're watching, you can actually also go to factcheck.org or go to Snopes, and they often will post fact checks as it goes, as the debate is going on. So that way, what you'll notice in the debate is sometimes one person will say one thing and another person will say another, and you're left having to choose whom you trust. You may have already decided that, but if you have not, you can go and look into who is the more trustworthy person and try to figure that out. Or you could just go to one of these fact-checking sites, and as the debate goes on, try to see if you can develop any kind of trust for either one of them, or decide who is more trustworthy. So we're kind of back to the two doctors issue. You've got Biden, you've got Trump. Maybe you trust neither of them, but do you trust them? Do you distrust them equally, or do you distrust one of them more? And sometimes that's unfortunately the choice that we have in life, that you have to decide not just who do you trust, but who do you trust more than somebody else. So, okay. So if you want, I do want to say, if you want to watch that debate, please, you can, here, I'll send this link to everybody. And you can check it out. It could very well be, yeah, there we go. Could very well be one of the most talked about debates in history. We'll see. Okay, so that's the link. Oops, I sent that to Tenzin. There we go. All right. So, any questions about that stuff? The fact-checking site or the debate tonight? Okay, so we do need to talk a little bit more about the form, because some are a little bit confused about the form. And if source evaluation is really starting to wear on you, I'd ask that you just stick with it a little bit longer, because we're almost there. I really feel like, looking at your homework assignments recently, many of you are getting this, and you're getting very close to being able to do this quickly and efficiently. And that's the hope, that, you know, after this class, you'll hear something and you'll say, I don't know if that's true, and I need to know. And you'll remember this. I could go look and see who said it and find out if they have a vested interest, if they, you know, if they're a trustworthy person, what their background is, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to share my screen again and take a look at our handout. So this is you should be using this for all of your source evaluations. And after reading a lot of your source evaluations over the weekend, I was able to find the areas that students are strongest in and struggle with the most. I found, well, these two sections were pretty good. This was the area of vested interests that was most difficult. And a lot of people wrote background information or personal interests, like the person likes to play golf or something like that. But a vested interest is a very specific thing. So instead of explaining it to you, because I have done that already, and we need to try a different angle, I'm going to ask that we do it in breakout rooms. I'm going to ask you this question. Is a vested interest? That's your question. And I would also like you to either find or invent 3 examples. So that's your task for your breakout room. And I will recreate them just for some variety. Okay, so what you should do when you get into your breakout room is, actually, let me share my screen again. You should use Google. Google has so many answers for us. So I'm going to create a new web page, and I'm going to type in, what is a vested interest? And you can start with a definition. You could watch a video. This is a 38-second explanation. This is a 5-minute long explanation. Probably don't have time for that. This is a 1-minute long explanation. If you go to the articles, again, you can use the dictionary. The dictionary also will give very well may give examples. You can translate it using Google, or you could go down to an actual dictionary like Merriam-Webster dictionary.com, and they may be able to tell you. You could also use Wikipedia. Wikipedia is, yep, they're just going to give you a definition. And then when it comes to examples, if you understand it well enough, you could come up with your own examples. But if not, just use Google again. So look at this. This one is actually a pretty good looking site. And, you know, so you can read about that kind of stuff. So that's your task with your group. And each one of you can just, you know, do your own research. And when you find something, share it with your group. So this one, there might not be as much talking. There's not a ton that you have to say, but if you find stuff, just vocalize that. Share it with your group mates. Okay, any questions on what to do? All right, here comes your breakout room assignments.
definition.
I guess I'm guessing just find the definition, and then when you know the definition, find 3 examples.
Paid to say something about some certain things. So
Yeah, I'm confused.
You requested help. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, I seen the button. I didn't know what it did, so I just took a risk.
Okay. Where was that? That button?
It was where the reaction. It's like right next to the record button.
Okay.
It's in the middle of reaction and record.
Okay. Excellent. Cool. I'm gonna pass that along. Thank you. So what's up?
I don't get what we're supposed to be doing.
I see. Okay. So you want to define vested interest. So you want to look for that word online. And once you do that, hopefully you can understand it well enough that you could come up with
where?
examples. You can look for it in a dictionary. If you type in what is a vested interest online, you'll get a bunch of answers. Or you could go to a dictionary, type dictionary.
Oh, I know what we're doing now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't need help.
You just got
Next again?
No, it's like in back.
What a day.
Give me a little bit of leeway. And honestly, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. There's no what happened. I mean, a minute ago, he was in the paper airplanes, and now he's in the portrait.
Hello, Professor.
Hi, how's it going?
This isn't even a group.
I know, this is the main room.
Yeah.
Tony by himself.
What happened?
Jennifer's by herself. There's nobody in her group. She texted me. She said there's nobody in her group.
Okay. I don't even see her listed on here. So maybe that's why. But I've ended them anyway. Were you able to find anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really get it too much, but all I know is that there's like vested interest, like in a will or like retirement from a job.
Okay.
Something like, you know, like a personal interest.
Okay.
Whatever it is that you're, you know, I don't know.
Okay. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, everybody's back. And I know this is tough, but did anybody find a good definition for us? Does anyone have a question?
No.
Oh, we got one. Kamira. Did you find
I didn't find a good definition.
No, okay.
No. I found it wasn't even proper English. I don't think they wrote it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's possible.
They said something about a misspelling error or whatever.
Okay. Anybody else have any? Did anyone find the definition for vested interests?
I got a personal group having a personal stake or involvement.
Ah, what is a stake?
Like a downfall.
Like
on a person, like a downfall on a personal, I guess, interest.
Having to do with a person. Yeah, you have a personal interest in something. So, for example, they say, you know, stakes are used in gambling a lot. So, for example, if you bet on, if you go to the horse races and you bet on a horse, if you bet $2 on the horse, the stakes are pretty low. If that horse loses, you lose $2. But if you bet $1,000 on the horse, the stakes might be pretty high, depending on how much money you have. So that's the idea of stakes. So what Taekwon said is a person has a stake in something. So they bet on a horse. would you go to that person to objectively describe what's happening in a horse race? That's the question. And in the case of somebody who is, yeah, Taekwon's shaking his head, he's probably going to have that person's probably going to have a horse that they think is better than other horses, based on their stake in it. They have, or imagine a horse owner. A horse owner is going to think my horse is the best. My horse is going to win. You should bet on my horse. My horse is going to win the race. That person may not be as reliable of a source as, for example, a professional horse bettor who has made $1 million betting on horses. That person is going to look for the real winner, whereas the owner of the horse is just looking for people to invest in that person's horse. So that's a vested interest. That's one example, that they have some money coming to them if you choose to believe in them. Anybody else have a way of, yeah, Kamira. Did you raise your hand, Kamira?
So a vested interest is like an investment.
In a way it is, absolutely. Yeah. So if I told you that BMCC is the best college in the world, if I told you that, do you think I'm a good source to trust for that?
No,
No, why not, Moriam?
because you work there.
That's where I get my money.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say bad things about, I mean, I wouldn't get fired for saying bad things about it, but I do want to promote my college, and I happen to believe in it. But at the same time, whenever I talk about all the good things about BMCC, all of you are probably going, well, yeah, I trust him, but he works there. That's a vested interest. Imagine the difference between that and talking to a friend of yours who already has attended BMCC. That person probably has no vested interest in BMCC. BMCC gives them no money. They have no financial reason to say BMCC is good or bad. Now, if that person got hired by LaGuardia Community College and you asked, you went to BMCC and then you got hired at LaGuardia, which one is better? That person might be tempted to say, you know what, I wish I had gone to LaGuardia because now they're getting their money from LaGuardia. So not everyone does that. Not everyone is heavily influenced by money, but you have to nonetheless recognize when they could be. Because I might say good things about BMCC without, being completely honest about it. But it's possible my brain is kind of wired to support the place I work for. Anybody else? What is a vested interest? This is going to take some time because it's hard to uncover. Tenzin, did you want to share?
Yes, so what I came to know is like vested interest is something you have interest in a period of time or a long period of time, and that interest somehow will give you something in benefit, give you something, or money or power or authority, and there should be something you gain from that interest.
Right. So is a person who has a vested interest more trustworthy or less trustworthy?
I think less trustworthy.
Absolutely. Why is that?
Because he's doing something he's interesting because he's getting something, like money or the power or something.
Right.
So for that, it's not. I won't trust them.
Okay. Well, can we be 100% sure that someone with a vested interest is being dishonest?
No, not always. That's not necessary.
Good. I agree. It's possible that someone could have a vested interest and yet maintain honesty. But you still have to recognize it. So if you look at the form again, it's not that if they have a vested interest, we're done here. They've got a vested interest, I'm done. I don't need to listen to anything else. It's more that you just want to collect them. What are the possible areas of interest? And I've mentioned many times before, some of the most heinous in our era are those scientists who are saying climate change is not real And when you investigate their background, you find oil companies giving them money. So now you know that you don't, the thing is you can't be sure. That scientist might have been honest, but they also got $3 million from an oil company. So they have a very strong vested interest in saying that climate change is not happening because the oil company paid them to say that. There's also issues like that in the pharmaceutical industry where there are certain studies on pharmaceutical drugs that the government funds, such as the COVID vaccine, but many pharmaceuticals, they have to be, the studies have to be paid for by the pharmaceutical company. So they pay scientists to evaluate whether the drug works. And do you think those scientists, I mean, the scientists do have ethics, hopefully, and won't just flat out lie. And they might be doing their best work, but they might have something going on that that's out of their control. That's kind of saying, you know, this company really likes you and they're giving you a lot of money, and hopefully this drug does work, in fact. And if that thought goes through a scientist's mind, that's a vested interest. Scientists are not supposed to be hoping for anything, but we all have to pay our rent and we have to pay our bills, and we want to go on vacation sometime and buy the new car or whatever. And so even though that scientist might be thinking, I am a scientist, I'm going to be true, I'm going to be honest to the process, it's possible that one decision will be different, or 3 or 5, because they are getting money from the pharmaceutical industry. So let me stop there for a minute. What are, can you think of another example of a vested interest that someone might have? What about that doctor I told you about? We had 2 doctors we were thinking about. One of them suggested you take this prescription medication. The other one said just change your diet. What's one question we could ask about the doctor who suggested we take medication?
They could get paid from the that company of medication.
Great. And we don't know that that's true. And I'm certainly not trying to suggest that doctors only subscribe or prescribe medications that they have a vested interest in. But I went into a doctor's office once, and he had pharmaceutical advertisements all over the place, and I don't think he even realized it. His pens had the name of a pharmaceutical. They were obviously free pens given to him by the pharmaceutical company. He had notebooks with the names of a different pharmaceutical company. He had a calendar with the name of a pharmaceutical company. If they're giving him all that stuff, and then he says, here, take this medication, I'm kind of like, I might want to see another doctor. I don't know if he's giving me that because he's getting a little bit of the, you know, every time he writes a prescription, the pharmaceutical company gives him a little money, or if he's being honest. And I don't know. And you have to investigate in order to find out. So that's the concept of a vested interest. And I want to ask, is anyone still confused about that? And I get that it is a very confusing concept. Okay, so as it pertains to your personalized learning project, to be sure, you should not be putting things in there like the person likes to golf. The person also has a few, has a few musical albums, and they like to travel. No, you should be looking for ways in which they might be getting money. It's usually about money or power. How are they getting money or power by doing this? That's been, if I can, mention, I do have to mention Trump again, because he is like the critical thinking do not person, but he has vested interests all over the place. When he did the huge tax deduction, the people who got the biggest tax deductions were the wealthiest people, and guess what he happens to be? So he got a tax deduction, so he has a vested interest in some of the laws that he's writing, for example. So if you have further questions and you're just, Moriam, did you want to ask another?
Yes, about the authors of some articles. some authors are not really that much popular, so I cannot find much information or vested interest. So I just wrote none found. Is that okay?
Okay, so what I would ask in that case is that you do your best and try to
Yeah.
find as much as you can. And if you do not find, not everyone has a vested interest necessarily. In fact, you know, when I said that I can actually say what I want about BMCC and not get fired, I've got something called tenure, and that's a way of protecting me. It's not 100%. If I said really bad things, they might consider firing me. But tenure protects me so that I can be honest. And a lot of universities have that protection called tenure. So sometimes you'll just find that the person is a researcher and they work at a university and they've written 2 books and they don't have any controversies. They've never been paid by an oil company, or there's not, you don't find anything. And if that's the case, just write nothing found. But just please do your best in trying to find that stuff. And keep in mind that I know some of the authors that you're choosing. And I will, if I see that author, I'm going to look for that 1 or 2 things I might know about them, because sometimes they're very easy to find. So make sure you try your best to find that. And if you don't, it's okay to say nothing found.
And I have another question, that
Okay.
one article I found from the Gale, it did not have any author name on it.
Right.
What am I supposed to do there?
Okay. So in that case, you need to evaluate the news source. So a lot of times it'll be an editorial. It might say the New York Times editorial board or something like that. But wherever it is published, and that's where we're heading. Actually, this next unit, we're going to talk about media organizations. So if you can wait on that if you need to, and not submit your last 2 source evaluations until we cover that. Or you can apply a similar sort of thing to the organization. But we are going to cover that in a couple of classes.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. To be clear, you've got 2 different things that you're evaluating. One is the person or persons who wrote it, and the other is the organization that published it. So we will look at both of those things. We've looked at people mostly so far, and we will look at organizations pretty soon. Okay. So I wanted to share this. Another area where some students struggled was this one right here. Other important information regarding the reputation of the author or authors. Ideally, you would find something there, but some people left that blank. Some people copied and pasted, and I will say I'm okay with that. This is not your own personal writing, and I don't expect it to be. So if you find something and you want to copy it and paste it in there, as long as it fits the right category, that's okay. But you should try to get at least 3 or 4 things from each author if you can. And if you're having trouble, go back to Google, search again, look through different sites. That person might have a university profile page, for example. They might have a Twitter account. Use those things to try to collect as much information as you can. Just try, if one author doesn't have a lot of information, I get that. But if all of your sources only don't have anything in this category or only have one thing, you'll probably lose some points for that. So just make sure you try your best. Taekwon?
Yeah, it does. Well, you talk about important information. That has to be like vested interest information, or just like any kind of information.
Well, the vested interests are going to specifically be about could this person gain anything in terms of money or power from saying what they said? So it's about money and power. But important information might be that, the person once said this or published this, or the person is famous for having done this. So it's just things about their background that might change the way you think about them. Not necessarily having to do with money and power. So if they wrote a book, that would be a good place to put that book title in there. If they supported a candidate, a political candidate, you can put that in there as well. That's very revealing about someone's perspective, that kind of stuff. Okay. So we're going to do another quick breakout room this time. And all you have to do is find one source. Let me put that in the chat room. Find one source that is a special interest publication. So that's all you have to do. And in your group, actually, why don't we just do that right now instead of doing it as a group, because we are running a little short on time. So why don't you just look and see if you can find a website that is for special interest groups. While you're looking, I'm going to put this on the screen. Oops, yeah. So you can read about what I'm talking about. The special interest category is right here.
Hey, you want us to choose if it's general public?
Did you find one?
Oh.
Take one.
I didn't find one, but I ran through something that was from newspaper.
From a newspaper. So do you think a newspaper is special interest?
Yes.
Newspaper would actually fit under the general public. So examples of this include newspapers and certain magazines that are for broad readership.
So there is a website, sciencefile.ai.com. It's for the people who are interested in science.
Okay.
Only.
Can you put it in can you put the link in the chat room?
Yeah.
And if anyone else has found something, go ahead and just drop your link into the chat room. Need help with that, Moriam? Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to go to this website. Hello, mortals. Science File, the AI official channel. Wow, interesting. This is definitely special interest. Popular channel playlists, people who are into astronomy, physics, general science, other. The color of an atom. Okay. All biology in 9 minutes, all astronomy in 9 minutes. Great. It's a good example. Here's another one. Advancing computing as a science and profession. This is profession. Association for Computing Machinery. So let's see, listen to, okay. This does appear to be Diversity Public Policy Learning Center Education Awards, conferences, publications. Okay, so about publications. computing researchers and practitioners. So I went into this area because I couldn't quite tell if this was a special interest group or if it was an academic paper written for peers in that group, for specialists in that group. This is starting to make me think that, I'll show you the category, experts in the field. So is it experts in the field or is it special interest? And you can tell the difference usually based on who is publishing. Is it coming from researchers? If it is, it's probably experts in the field. If it's not coming from researchers, it's probably special interest groups. Brings discoveries of computing researchers and practitioners to the world's attention. So who is the audience based on that sentence? That's what we're trying to figure out. It's bringing the discoveries of computing researchers and practitioners to the world's attention. So are they experts? Is it a special interest group? Is it the general public? Another clue here is journals. They also have magazines. They also have high quality advanced level books for the computing community. So I think it's fair to call this a special interest group, but they also probably have some publications that are intended for experts in the field. And they also say they're bringing it to the world. However, I don't know if it really is the general public because you have to really care about that stuff. So I think I would say no, yes, and yes in this case, but you could say yes, yes, and yes for this particular website. Okay, let me show you one more special interest group. Oh, let's see. Yeah, one more, let's see. Oh, maybe not. I must have deleted it. That's okay. I think you get the idea. You want something that is for people who have a certain passion of some sort. So if it's like a website that has to do with comics or something like that, that would be an example of that. I wanted to also mention peer review. That was one that a lot of students got wrong. This is a yes or no question. And the explanation is it means that it has been read and approved by other people who work in the same field. That's the main thing. You can use the library to decide. Sometimes they will indicate whether something is peer reviewed. But let me show you an example of a website that is peer reviewed called the College English Association. Some of the things to notice here, they have a conference page, which means they have conferences where you can go and attend and learn about the goings on of the College English Association. They have publications, they have partners, they have a membership, they have officers and directors and a contact information. So if I go to publications, one thing you get are the guidelines, special issue calls for papers. So when you take a look at this is a call for contributors, the CEA Critics Special Issue on Peace. Is it possible to teach English so that people stop killing each other? In the Peaceable Classroom, Mary Rose O'Reilly meditates on nonviolence and inner peace in an attempt to answer this compelling question. So this is going to be their next conference, and they're going to have guest editors who are going to come in and decide who gets to be published in their journal and who gets to attend their conference and speak at it. They have a submission deadline. So I'm using this site because I've actually published in this journal and I've presented at one of their conferences. And so I have a firsthand experience of what that's like to be a part of something that is peer reviewed. And I worked with some colleagues of mine, and we did, in our classrooms at BMCC, we did a study. Everyone had to sign a form if they wanted to be in the study, and everyone did except for one student. And so we had a whole bunch of, among the four of us, we had 8 different classes, so we had over 200 students, and we were able to do this study. And after the study, we wrote a paper that was written for other people who teach reading. And then we submitted that article to the College English Association, and it was accepted. And we were able to go down to the conference and present at that conference. And so that is peer review, because in this case, it's going to be Lauren DePaula and Tammy Winner. And those two, if we were to look up who those people are, let's see who they are. I'm guessing they're going to be professors of English. And there she is. She's a professor at Georgia Southwestern State University. And so when Lauren DePaula looks at my stuff, she is someone who is doing the same kind of work I am, and she's deciding whether or not what I have written about is worthy of publication. And that's what peer review means. So you'll notice this looks very different from a website like this. This doesn't have a whole bunch of links about conferences and about submissions and things. You can submit to the Atlantic, but it's kind of buried in here somewhere. And they don't usually encourage the general public to write articles on their behalf. They hire a staff, and that staff writes most of their articles, and they have a few others who contribute. So that's the idea of peer review, that it often will have that, it has that step where the article goes to someone who works in your field, decides whether or not it's good enough to be published, and then if it is, they publish it, and then it will have that peer review indication when you look at BMCC's databases. So once again, most of your articles are probably not going to be peer reviewed. If it comes from a newspaper, it's not peer reviewed most likely. It would have to be a journal, and journals, academic journals, are usually noticeable because they are very difficult to read in most cases. You'll get one paragraph and have no idea what they're talking about because it's not written for you. It's written for experts in the field. This section right here. Okay, just a few more things I wanted to share because it's a difficult process to go through. So I wanted to share something in education, something that would be educational. And so I chose, well, last night I made some dinner. I made salmon for dinner. And I was like, I can't remember how long to cook it or how to prep it. So I looked it up online. That's one example of education, an educational source. They're telling you how to do something. This is another educational source, and I'm going to put it in here for anybody who loves music. It's the best music education site I've ever been a part of, or I've ever experienced. And you can choose a genre. These are all called super genres. So let's say I wanted to look into, some pop music. It opens up all these genres of pop music going all the way back to a German style called Schlager, which means hits. And it goes all the way down to indie folk. Let's check out electro pop. Let's say I want to learn more about electro pop. It opens up this window. And this is just educating me about what electro pop is. If I click playlist, it educates me by giving me examples, Lady Gaga and Robin and The Knife and so forth. I can also read more about pop music by clicking here. And it has this whole write-up about pop music. So it's a wonderful website if you love music and want to learn more. And it's just telling you about the stuff. It's not saying pop is better than rock. It's not saying, it doesn't make any arguments. It really just tells you about the music and what it sounds like and where it comes from. And that's an educational site. A factual site, I'll briefly go back to this one. This is an example of a factual site. If you want to know where to watch the debate, you go to this site, and they'll tell you it's from 9 to 10, and here's where it's being, that's where it's being published. So you might have some factual stuff from opposing viewpoints if you use primary sources and things like that. But so far we have not, we've mostly talked about argumentative stuff on that site. And then there's influence as well. We'll come back to that. If somebody wanted to sell you something. So here's something very interesting. The New York Times, has a section called the Wirecutter section. And it comes from the New York Times. So it looks like a news publication. But I can't help but wonder if the New York Times has, like, for example, this one says the best foot spa is a bucket of warm water. But then it says, but if you want bubbles and water kept heated to a specific temperature, consider this foot spa with 14 rollers. So I wonder, does the New York Times have a vested interest in supporting this company? I don't know. I'm not going to assume they do. But I do wonder about that. And I could research that, New York Times Wirecutter, and find out where do they, because here they're going to tell you about the best pressure washer, the first Canon lenses you should buy, gear and peripherals for PC gaming, and so forth, the best cloth face masks for kids, the best throw blankets. Are they really just looking at things objectively and telling you what the best is? Or are they trying to sell some of this stuff because they have a vested interest in it? And every time someone clicks on best throw blankets, they get 5 cents or something, from a company that is listed here. Why you should trust us. Okay, so they actually have a section that is trying to encourage you to trust their evaluations and so forth. New York Times is a great publication in that way, but this is a similar sort of style of thinking for other genres or other publications as well. And then the last one is it trying to influence you? And this is what you're mostly working in. So this is the section on here, right here. Educate, provide factual information, influence, or sell something. A lot of what I'm seeing is people are saying that they're being educated, but it's not about what's happening to you. It's about what the intent is behind the author. So most of these, you'll notice that the intent is to influence you. This is opposing viewpoints, and the category is political participation in the United States. This one says, Avenatti says Democrats need to nominate a white guy. He's wrong. So already I know that the author, Paul Waldman of the Washington Post, is trying to influence me. It's already clear in the title. How about this one? Women are rebuilding the Democratic Party from the ground up. And this is Laura Putnam and Theda Skocpol. These authors, are they just informing me about that, or are they trying to convince me that that's the case? This time I don't know. I would have to go and read the article and decide. But it could be a little bit of both, but it's going to be one more than the other. MTV wants young people to guilt their friends into voting. Now this one, because of the word guilt, strongly suggests to me they're trying to influence me and get me to believe that MTV is not just trying to get people to vote, but guilting them into voting. So millennials are allergic to politics, but they could change anything. So in this case, I'm pretty sure that this is also an effort to influence me. It's time to modernize the way Americans vote. Another argument trying to influence me. So you should don't assume that it's about influence, but that could be a starting point when you look at your articles. Look at the title and say, is this person trying to influence me? Are they trying to get me to do something or to believe something? And is that their primary goal? If it is, then their purpose is to influence you. And that matters because if they're trying to influence you, you have to be aware of that. You have to try to step back from their influence, find out who they are, evaluate their arguments, evaluate their evidence, and see if you're willing to believe them based on that. So Moriam, do you have your hand raised?
Yes, so if one article is giving you information about history, telling you history, is that educational or factual information?
The author is giving, what is the author giving you?
History of something.
The history of something. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it's educative.
I think you're probably, you may be right. The way you described it, you're right. But what you need to do is take a look at that article again and say, is this author using history to make an argument? Or is this author using a historical narrative to influence me to believe something? If they are, then it's primarily about influence. If they are not, and they're just telling you the story, then I think educate is the better way.
Okay, I got it.
All right, good. I just realized that actually a good example of educating in opposing viewpoints is going to be that initial article that appears with any topic, and those articles appear centered for every topic, and then you have to click read more in order to actually see it. So here's my article. This is probably just to inform me or to educate me, because it's giving you an overview of the issue itself. Whereas when you get into the featured viewpoints, they're most likely going to be trying to influence you, things that are coming from magazines and newspapers. If you go to academic journals, you know, there'll be a variety. It'll be both educational and influential, and most of those will probably be peer reviewed. Okay, so I want to take a look at our next module before we move on, or before class ends, I should say. So we're actually going to a new unit, Unit 4. And Unit 4 is called Thinking Critically About Media. And the first assignment is due tomorrow. So, and that seems pretty fast, but I actually gave you I was aware that we were going to have a lot to do. So on Module 1 and 2, I tried to lessen the load a little bit. But this is a different kind of assignment in that you now have to, okay. So actually, I just remembered something about our last, let me go back for one moment. I wanted to clarify something about this last section. To finish up module Unit 3, you need to complete your source evaluation guides. We've talked a lot about that. And the only other thing you have to do is arrange your authors on a spectrum. I just wanted to say that that's just like the other assignment. Well, you'll have strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree, except this time every one of you will have different authors. And you'll have to read the articles and read some of the articles enough that you can find out whether they strongly agree, disagree, or wherever they fit on that spectrum. And then you can complete this spectrum assignment and submit that to me. Yeah, so that was technically due to today, I believe. But if you didn't complete it, I'll still accept it for full credit. And so as for
Professor?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'll wait till you finish.
Sorry, say that again.
No, I'm sorry. I'll wait till you finish.
Oh, okay, cool. So let's take a look at Module 1 then. You only have 3 things on here. I'll start with this one because you don't have to turn anything in for that. It's purple. It's for your personalized learning project, and so this is when you should have chosen your articles, completed your works cited, submitted your works cited, and arranged your authors on a spectrum. And now it's time to read and annotate your articles. And we'll start summary writing probably next week, and then you still have weeks to go before this is due. So Zishoni, yes, in answer to your question. So that's this assignment. And going to the media, this media assignment, there's a quiz and there is a video, a screencast. So this is a new thing for us, and you're going to have to do this several times with this, well, once with this unit and once with another unit. And this is, I created this media for you, and you can click on it right in here. But first you should open up the quiz. So it's the sort of, it's like a reading guide basically. And you open up the quiz. It can be done and resumed. This allows multiple attempts. You can have up to 2 attempts on this. So please do follow this procedure. Open it up, go to question number 1. The term media means news media and nothing else. So now you have to go back to this and click play. And again, it's a slideshow and it's narrated by me. And you can watch it here, or you can click the YouTube and it will take you to the YouTube site. And early in that slideshow, I'm gonna answer this question for you. And you'll have to click true or false. And then make sure you read the second one. What's a good way to think of media in the broadest sense? Go back to the slideshow and continue playing it, and I'll answer question 2 eventually. So you just want to do this just exactly like a reading guide. But one thing to be sure of is I'm only giving you 2 chances because I don't want you to guess and then know which ones you got and which ones you didn't get, and then go back a second time and guess with the ones you got wrong the first time, and then do it again and again and again. Because that's both tedious and not a good learning experience. So please, you have 2 chances to do it. So please do sit down and watch this. It's 20 minutes long, but that's really all you have to do for tomorrow. Watch this and complete that quiz. This part right here is not due tomorrow. It's just something you should start working on. So that's our assignment for tomorrow. Are there questions, Taekwon? Or are you good?
The new homework, that's the unit 4. It's not showing in my
Unit 4 is not?
Yeah,
Okay.
like when I click unit 4, it's not showing the modules.
Okay, let me see if I can fix that.
I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi, but I wasn't showing nothing.
It might not be your Wi-Fi, because sometimes there's for some reason a number of ways you can mute things.
Check.
It should be available.
Yeah, I'm gonna check again.
Is anybody else having that problem?
No, it's available.
Moriam, do you see it?
Yes, I see module 1.
Okay. Oh, do you see module? Oh, you see module 1 for unit 4. Okay. Anybody else not see it? It should be available. Okay. So please do, here I could try this. Please do let me know if you're having trouble as soon as possible. Okay. Yeah, there it is for that one. Any other questions about the homework? Oops. I'm going to go to that one. And then student view, just double checking. Oops. Okay, so you should be able to. So maybe you need to refresh or something. But if you have trouble, please do let me know.
Should it show just module 1 or every module for unit 4?
It should just show module 1. And then tomorrow you'll get the other modules. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I know Zashoni, you wanted to stick around. If anyone else wants to stick around, I've got a few minutes. I do have a meeting coming up, but I do have a few minutes to chat. For everybody else, I hope you enjoy your Tuesday, and I will see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock.
For unit 3, module 3 and 4, I'm still looking for articles.
For unit 3, Oh, you're still looking for articles.
Yeah. Kind of
Okay. Do you need help with that, or do you just need to spend more time on it?
both. I need both.
A little both. Okay. Do you know where to look?
I know the library from the school.
Yes. Do you remember how to get to opposing viewpoints?
No.
So try going to our Blackboard and go to course information.
All right.
The topmost link there is how to get to opposing viewpoints.
Okay, I see it.
Okay, so then go to opposing viewpoints and find your issue by typing it into the search bar. And then click featured viewpoints. Okay, I see that there's still, we got Kristen, Mia, Nyson, Tenzin. Do any of you have questions? I know Zashona, you're sticking around for a question. Okay, so Zashoni, do you want to wait until it's just you and me, or can you go now?
I'd rather wait for me and you to talk one-on-one.
Okay, cool, no problem.
All right. If I have any questions, I'll write you on the Remind app.
Please do. That sounds good.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good day. You too.
You too.
Take care.
All right, bye, Nyson. So we got Kristen, Mia, Tenzin. Are you three there?
Yes, Professor.
Do you have a question, Tenzin?
Yeah, I have 4 questions.
Okay.
About the spectrum.
Yes.
So, for example, the author himself he mentioned that someone said something. He said that someone has said this, but he refuted the statement of that opinion that someone's posted, right?
Okay.
So that thing in the spectrum, do I have to mention author's point of view, or do I have to mention that that someone had said something and it comes under opposed? But the author is saying that that's a false statement. So I don't know in spectrum which category I should add it.
Okay. You only need to do the author for the spectrum. Okay. And the reason is because it's about, well, the word author is based on the word authority. And authority is the person in charge. So that's what you're trying to evaluate, the person who's in charge of that article. Does that make sense?
Okay, Professor. So I have to just see the author's point of view in which spectrum, right?
Yep. And if you're really interested in, yeah, go ahead.
Oh. And my second question is about the works cited. When I copy paste the works cited of an article, they had not they have not mentioned the author's name, but when I check the article, they had author's name.
Okay.
So do I have to add the author name on the works cited?
Yes, I think just add it. Last name, comma, space, first name, period, and then a space.
Okay.
So just look at your other citations and use that exact same formatting for the author.
Okay. And my third question is so 2 of my article has 2 authors in one article, like
okay.
2 authors. So does it mean it's peer review because there are 2 of them?
No, because no, it's about who publishes it. So the 2 of them are writing it, but then if the publisher works in that field, then it would be considered peer reviewed. And also, you should be able to tell on opposing viewpoints when you click the peer review thing. When you're looking at the list of articles, and it should disappear if it's not.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
And my 4th question is, 2 of my articles had no authors, and they mentioned the publisher Washington Post. And do I have to do source evaluation on the Washington Post? Like, what's their reputation, what's their interests, or whatever? Do I have to do the source evaluation of the publisher?
Yep, that's what you want to do. Just shift it to the Post
Okay.
itself, because they
Okay.
are the editors of the Post, which means they have the final say for what gets published there. So
Yeah.
if you look at the whole news site, you can learn about its reputation and you know, its political stances on things, and those things have presumably gone through and been approved by the same editors who wrote that article.
Okay, Professor, my final question. And so one of my author, I read her bio, and she was pro-communist before,
Okay.
when she was at a young age, and now she's against China's party, Communist Party, and she's in Australia, and she is a journalist, and she report about the Xinjiang concentration camp and everything. And is it her vested interest of reporting human rights violation in Xinjiang?
Do you think that she has a financial motive to write what she's writing?
I don't think financial motive, but she reports, and that's how she pay for, right?
Through her reporting. Well, you could mention
Every
that.
journalist get paid, right? When they
Yes,
report.
indeed they do. And you could write that, you know, whoever pays somebody could be if the place that she's publishing publishes only a certain viewpoint, then yeah, I think it's fair to say that that's a vested interest. That's her job, and she needs to meet that viewpoint, or she won't get published at that site at her own employment. So I think that's fair.
Okay, Professor. So I have submitted my source evaluation of my 3 articles, and I have to correct, and then I'll correct them, and I'll just send you again.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
You're very welcome. Have a good day.
You too.
All right. So what's up, Shoshone?
All right, so I just submitted the one that was a 0. I think that was a research. The research. So you probably have that in your email.
Okay.
And right now, I just got. Let me see how many questions I have. Okay, I probably have 6. For this one, for the strongly in the opposite, neutral, and the support. You want me to use my articles that I pulled out from the search book, right?
Well, now there's 2 different spectrum assignments. One of them was from the monuments reading that we did a week ago. Should the monuments come down? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the 2 books.
So that's one. The second spectrum assignment should come from the authors that you're choosing for your personalized learning project.
So 1 from the other book, and then the 2 for the learning project. Okay.
Well, both. The first one had 7 total perspectives. Catherine Randall Williams and Timothy Dolan, and then there were 5 students who published in that article called "How Many Statues Must Fall." So that was the first one, and you had to take those 7 perspectives and put them in the spectrum and submit it. This newest one, you have to take your personalized learning project and your 5 source evaluations for the authors you've chosen, and now what you have to do is arrange those authors on a spectrum. So for the first one, everyone in the class should have submitted something that looks pretty similar. For this one, the newest one, everyone will have something that looks different. Does that help? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was like talking about like the old one that was like due September 21st, because I was about to redo that over.
Right.
Yeah.